After it spun out from Huawei, Honor wanted to make a big splash with its first post-divorce flagship, the Magic 3 Pro. It promised that it would be a Hollywood-level camera, turning us all into miniature Tom Cruises as we shot our TikToks and Instagram lives as if they were destined for the local multiplex. Now, unfortunately, that handset never made it out of China, but its successor, the Magic 4 Pro, is being sold on the same promise, and it has come to Europe. So, a little bit after I'd initially hoped, we can finally put this phone through its paces. Now, certainly Honor distinguished itself with the spec list, which reads like the company through the kitchen sink, the kitchen, the dining room, and in fact, most of the ground floor of the house. You've got a 50 megapixel primary camera, a second 50 megapixel wide lens with 122 degree field of view. And on top of that, there is a 64 megapixel telephoto with 100 times digital zoom and an 8x8 direct time of flight sensor for faster autofocus. And the phone is also IMAX enhanced, whatever that means. But the company did team up with professional colorist Brian McMahon, who devised specific sort of lookup tables, which is the sort of Hollywood equivalent of an Instagram filter. So for instance, on a very gloomy day, you can hit the sunny filter and everything is suddenly bathed in an orange glow, makes it look very tropical. On a very sunny day, if you want to dial down the color, you can use the gloomy filter and make everything look like one of those bleach past thrillers from the turn of the millennium. And then there's a couple of different ones like Focus, which dials down all of the colors apart from skin tone, which makes everything look a little bit like an 80s music video. But for me, it was the ability to shoot log that really piqued my interest with this device. Now, log is short for logarithmic footage, and it's essentially the way most big budget Hollywood movies are shot. Now, log footage, it's a bit like unpasteurized milk. When you look at it when it's being filmed, everything looks weird and washed out, but that's because the camera is trying to preserve as much of the color and the tone and the depth as possible within the scene, so that then that footage can be handed over to a professional colorist and processed so that all of the light and all of the shadows and all of the color can be pulled out and massaged and tweaked so that it looks ready for, you know, a cinema and a home video release and running it on a phone after that. Log also helps because it can shoot things that would fox a lot of standard digital video cameras, weird mixes of shadows and highlights that other cameras would try and smooth out. A great example of this would be if you're shooting behind a window, and so you've got a lot of bright light behind you, and frequently that means that there isn't enough light on the subject, the person standing in front of it. But theoretically, at least with log, you'll be able to dial down the light behind, dial up the person in front, and get something that looks a lot more real than it ever did when you shot it normally. Now, me standing here right now, this is all being shot on a Magic 4 Pro, and it's a easy camera to use, but it's not been plain sailing. Every now and again the camera will ruin a take because it's picking up on some weird strobing issues, and I've shot some footage in log and it's funny because I can't seem to pull out a lot of the color information that seems to be there. I think a lot of it has been clipped out, probably because with Magic Log, the format that Honor has developed, it's probably designed to take out some of that data in order to compress it to smartphone size. But I will admit, I am not a professional, okay, or at least I'm not a professional colorist. Fortunately for me though, I do know a man who is.
Thanks, Dan. I've had a chance to play with the Magic 4 Pro's log mode over here in France. To be honest, it's not great for the average user, as log video can be super complicated. However, if you know what you're doing, the implementation is not too bad. The biggest issue is that, as far as I can see, Honor didn't provide a factory LUT file for editing apps that automatically converts flat log footage into sharp, color-rich video. So you have to adjust it manually, which can be challenging even for pros. You could use third-party 3D LUTs, but all log formats are different, so they may not work well with Honor's Magic Log format. Anyone serious about using the feature needs to jump into Pro mode so you can set the exposure manually. There, it has nice granular settings for ISO, shutter speed, and more, letting you better control the image. For instance, the Magic 4 Pro clips highlights harshly, as we saw, so you'll want to expose for those and not shadows. It's hard to see what's going on while you're shooting though. Mirrorless cameras have built-in display LUTs, so your subject doesn't look like a gray smudge, but the Magic 4 Pro lacks that feature. It's also missing a video level display, and it's hard to judge log exposure by eye. Perhaps Honor could add those in along with an editing LUT in a future model or update. If you spend some time with it, you can get a lot out of the log feature. However, most people would probably be better off using the HDR10 Plus mode instead to boost dynamic range. It's easier to use, and you can see the results right away on your phone or an HDR TV with no fiddling required. Thanks for watching, and if you enjoyed this video, please hit like and subscribe. And for more on technology, check out Engadget.com.